evening and welcome to Altos, your weekly Catholic news program here on Trinity TV and now showing on the national television station TTT. I'm Neil Parsonlal. Here's a look at this week's top stories. 98% of Pity Martinique's housing stock has been reduced to rubble by Hurricane Beryl. Archbishop Charles Jason Gordon urges the region to give generously to those suffering from the devastation of Hurricane Beryl. Come back home. Father Robert Christo issues a heartfelt plea to Roman Catholics who have left the church. And later, we speak with the Prime Minister of Grenada, Deacon Mitchell, who says it's hard not to cry as Grenada and its dependencies pick up the pieces after being ravaged by Beryl. And now to our top story. It's now almost 2 weeks since the Grenadian islands of Carriacou and Pity Martinique sustained severe damage due to Hurricane Beryl, and the islands have a long journey ahead of them before any form of normalcy returns. Clisha Best prepared this report on the situation there.
The situation on the island of Pity Martinique in particular has been described by one regional coordinator as a depressing, overwhelming sight which will take years to reset. Another said it looks like a dumping ground for galvanized and debris which is scattered everywhere by the hurricane-force winds of Beryl. Communication has been restored, but with expected issues. We spoke to Father Hugh Logan, who is currently underground assisting with the recovery efforts in Pity Martinique. He said the people are slowly trying to put their lives back together.
To see the island firsthand with your very own eyes is very overwhelming. You wonder, will things get back to a normal? It will take a years, but it really can be depressing. But people here are not lost their faith. They are thanking God for the gift of life. And they continue, as I've been seeing, they have not been just sitting there doing nothing. They have been trying to see what they can do to make life better for them here in Pity Martinique.
Father Hugh also noted that the Sisters of the Sorrowful Mother are set to journey there to offer counseling and support. Meanwhile, Dwight Logan, the district coordinator at the National Disaster Management Agency in Pity Martinique, better known as NADMA, said while the donations have been coming in from the CARICOM community, a lot more is needed.
And there's a rumor that there's a lot of food on the island. This is not so. This is not so. Please, we need your help in terms of foodstuff, in terms of solar lights, in terms of building material as we go forward. Now, and we are asking you, channel these to NADMA, either NADMA Grenada, NADMA Carriacou, NADMA Pity Martinique.
Spokesperson for the NADMA team, Dr. Dawn Decoto, is also calling for additional manpower.
We put doctor the phrase, help a house. Yes. So if you're coming up to Grenada now, what we need, bring your water, bring your quicks, but what we need the bolts to bring plywood, we need them to bring the nails, the screws, the tools, galvanized.
I am Clisha Best for Catholic News Altos.
President of the Antilles Episcopal Conference, Archbishop Charles Jason Gordon, says the Caribbean has to realize it has to live with the spirituality of hurricanes, and he's appealing to the people of the region to really dig deep to help those affected by Hurricane Beryl. In a video recording appealing for help for those ravaged by Beryl, His Grace admitted that the concept of spirituality of hurricanes is difficult to understand. But he said with hurricanes becoming more fierce and ferocious, we need to understand that we are vulnerable. We here at Altos join the Archbishop in urging everyone to give generously to this relief effort. And hurricane relief efforts in this archdiocese are being coordinated by a committee appointed by Archbishop Gordon. The committee comprises Nigel Phillip of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, Rhonda Mengo of the Living Water Community, and Deborah de Rosier of the Eternal Light Community. In a letter sent to priests and parish coordinators and signed by de Rosier, parishes have been asked to organize teams who will undertake the collection, sorting, packaging, and transporting of the items to the various posts as required. Parish communities have been advised to look out for the details of the information from the committee from their parish priest and vicariate offices. And here's an appeal that's similar. Vicar for Communications, Father Robert Christo, has urged Roman Catholics who have left the fold to return to the Church, and he's also urging the Roman Catholic community to accept the thorns in their lives, saying this is what gives them power from God. Delivering the homily at his final Mass at the St. Dominic's RC Church in Penal on Sunday, Father Christo urged the congregation to hold on to their faith. Catholic News editor Raymond Sims has more in this report.
As the congregation made their way into St. Dominic's RC Church in Penal, no one was left in any doubt that this was a celebration of love and appreciation for a much-beloved priest, Father Robert Christo, who was bidding adieu as he left after 6.5 years to take up his new assignment as parish priest in Arima. The church was packed to capacity on a day celebrating not only Father Christo, but also the annual harvest in the parish and welcoming the new.
We thank God and we celebrate today. Want to give a round of applause to Father Jorge, all the way from Venezuela. We want to pray for our Father Peter from Nigeria. In capable hands, we have our church. Give him a round of applause and a good penal welcome.
Delivering the homily, Father Christo spoke of several experiences he has had in his ministry. He reminded the congregation that every person baptized in the Catholic Church was baptized as priest, prophet, and king, and that all that we have and can do comes from the Spirit of God.
The Spirit in you, inside of you, from your baptism soul, have power. I give you power to touch people, raise dead, and then you all gaze in, and you come in, and you're attending, and you're not utilizing. We will come to just now. Sometimes He's give you tone, and if you hide the tone, you hide the power.
Father Christo had a message for those who have left the church, telling them, once a Catholic, always a Catholic.
And if you're not in a ministry in the church, you're not home. Come back home. Home is church. If you miss church and you don't live church, you go bury church.
In keeping with the celebratory theme, intercessions of prayer were done in song by several young people.
Bless our leaders as they rule and guide. Let but our judgment be our lasting strife. To make our country remember to praise the Trinity. We pray to the Lord.
I am Raymond Sims for Catholic News Altos.
Newly procured police vehicles received a blessing from Father David Can, the parish priest of Our Lady of Perpetual Help in San Fernando. A Facebook video via the San Fernando City Corporation showed Father Can blessing the fleet on July 8th at the San Fernando City Police Station. Father Can invoked divine protection and guidance for the vehicles and those who will operate them. The government has launched another anti-crime initiative, and this one is aimed at using song and music to steer young people away from a life of crime. The Call to Order initiative was launched using the song The Call by local reggae singers Marvin King, who goes by the sobriquet Mr. King, Isasha, Brandon Young, King David, David Neves, Ziggy Ranking, Corey Francis, and Prophet Benjamin, Devon Samuel. The Call to Order initiative takes the form of a music competition, which will be in 3 categories for youths ages 8 to 12, 13 to 19, and 20 to 24. Lyrics will be on ending violence, and the participants will be judged by likes and shares on the social media platform Instagram. National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines is hoping that the initiative will encourage young people to take a stand against crime and violence. Mr. King, Marvin Lewis, said the team and those who recorded the call were happy that the government was using their song as a basis for to change the crime situation in the country. The competition winner for each category will benefit from a recording session, video production, and a trophy, and the second and third place groups will each receive a trophy. It's time now for us to take a short break, and when we return, we speak with Prime Minister of Grenada, the Honorable Deacon Mitchell, as he pieces his country back together. Before we go, have a look at this week's trivia question. Prime Minister, thanks very much for taking the time from your obviously very busy schedule
to be with us on Altos this morning. We wanted to get a sense from you in terms of the destruction that would have taken place in Grenada and its dependencies. You would have experienced Ivan 20 years ago as a youth. 20 years later, you're experiencing Beryl as a prime minister. How has that experience been for you?
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. I think, as a young person, 2 years out from university, 20 years ago, I don't know that I reflected a lot on the ravages of Ivan. It was devastating. It hit mainland Grenada, and all around was destruction. So I spent in the immediate aftermath and for several months a lot of my time helping with the distribution of relief. I volunteered with things like the Rotary Club and all of the other relief agencies, Samaritan's Purse and others, who spent a lot of time just simply going around helping to clean up, helping to distribute relief supplies, helping to put tarpaulins on people's homes, etc. It was a very rewarding experience, and it also taught me that despite the significant damage that Ivan had done to the psyche and to the physical landscape of Grenada, that we could rebuild and we were resilient. And that there were several lessons that we would have had to learn from that period. Grenada had not been hit by a hurricane in 50 plus years. The last one was 1955. And so the theory then was that you'd probably get hit by a Category 3 or Category 4 hurricane once in every 50 years. And that people could perhaps live with those odds. The reality is, by 2005, a couple of months later, we got hit with another hurricane, Hurricane Emily, also in July. That was July 8th. Thankfully, the damage was not as catastrophic as Ivan, and in any event, the place had been damaged badly enough. There was, in a sense, not much left for Emily to do. Fast forward today, and again, early July, almost June really, we've been hit with a devastating Category 4, almost Category 5 hurricane, which has devastated Carriacou and Petite Martinique and has done significant damage to the north of the island. Now, luckily for us, the south and the eastern parts of the island were, I would say, largely spared, and to some extent we dodged a bullet there. And that has allowed Grenada to be able to respond a lot more effectively, particularly with treating with the northern part of the island and Carriacou and Petite Martinique. I shudder to think if we had the same level of destruction in Grenada as we have in Carriacou and Petite Martinique, what would become of us? Because there is no question that the task of rebuilding, cleaning up, and restoring the psyche of our people would be a lot more difficult if the entire island of Grenada, that is, had been devastated. So for me as a prime minister, I think having gone through the experience of Ivan, it led me in good stead to be able to appreciate that there are a number of things we needed to do. One was to make sure from a preparation point of view, even though we didn't have a lot of time, that we needed to communicate repeatedly and consistently with the public about the dangers of the hurricane, about the need to be prepared, the need to have the shelters open, the need to go into the shelters ahead of the hurricane, not after or during. And then the need to make sure that from a communication point of view, that we could communicate with the public as quickly as possible after the event. The need to make sure that the security forces were prepared, because we had a lot of looting and, in a sense, a breakdown of law and order in the immediate aftermath of Ivan. We wanted to make sure that the security forces were prepared. First, to look after themselves and their families, and then second, to make sure that they could do their jobs and ensure that the population remained calm and that people did not panic and did not have to engage in any unlawfulness. That was successful, and I want to take the opportunity to thank the Commissioner of Police and his team, the Commissioner of Prisons and his team, because in Ivan, we had a wholesale jailbreak because the prisons were impacted as well. From the perspective of regional support throughout this process, right from the beginning, or NADMA, the National Disaster Management Agency, and CDEMA, together with other regional partners, other prime ministers, CARICOM prime ministers whose countries were likely to be impacted, were in constant communication. We were doing Zoom meetings, we were exchanging notes, we were preparing, we were activating, because we recognized there was a real probability that the storm would make landfall. So that, I think, also worked well and has helped with the immediate post relief and coordination. Obviously, notwithstanding those things, going through this is still a harrowing experience. and particularly for the areas that are damaged, it's gut-wrenching and depressing, really, to see the level of destruction and damage and the level of cleanup and so on that we have to.
There was one report that said that Petit Martinique was almost like a garbage dump now. Or a dump for for material. Any thoughts on the extent of the devastation in those islands? How would you, on a scale of 1 to 10, percentage wise, how bad is it?
On a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 9.
It's a 9.
And it's not a 10 merely because there are 1 or 2 buildings that have survived.
1 or 2 buildings, yes.
Probably either just lucky because of the wind that missed it, because I guess within the wind you probably have a tornado-like effect, or because the construction methodologies were better. But largely public infrastructure, roads, the coastline, the mangroves, vegetation, all of the vegetation, agriculture, 80 to 90% of homes. I mean, there are homes that have been completely destroyed. Not just the roof is gone. I mean, the entire building has collapsed. There are public buildings that have completely collapsed. In Carriacou, there's the Dover Government School. And when I say collapse, the only thing left is the wall slab. The entire school has crumbled. So it's the airport, the port, the Tyrrell Bay Marina. So, it's not a situation where it's the southern part or the northern part of the island. It's devastation throughout Carriacou, devastation throughout Petit Martinique. And if you're flying from there.
Have you been able to quantify the damages as yet and what it would take to repair?
We expect to receive the rapid damage assessment today or tomorrow. I have resisted wanting to put dollar figures to it by simply sort of doing an estimate. We can tell you, for example, that 90% of the housing stock in Carriacou and Petit Martinique is damaged or destroyed, and it's easy to extrapolate from that the fact that you need hundreds of millions of dollars. And I could give a simple example. If we have to rebuild, and we will, 1,000 homes, at a minimum, the average cost of a 2-bedroom house, very modest house in Grenada, is $200,000. So if you had to build 1,000 homes at $200,000, that's $200 million right there. Yes. So we certainly expect that the damage will be in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And it's not just housing. We're talking agriculture, aquaculture, mariculture, for example, or CMOS farmers who ply the trade on the eastern coast. All of their CMOS is completely destroyed. So there's significant damage to agriculture as well.
One of the things that have come forward is that this has been, the Beryl has broken all records. Is the first storm so early, the first category 4 into 5 storm. And people talk about, the experts are telling us about the warming of the seas. The sea surface temperature that we are facing now is what we'd expect in September. How much of this is climate change? How much of this is attributed to climate change? And what can we do, and why? And I know you said a couple of things in terms of us, the smaller islands, paying for the extravagance of the north. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about that whole climate change, the impact, and what are your thoughts on what should happen going forward?
Right. Well, I think there are a couple of things that we could point to that are self-obvious and demonstrable. I started off by indicating that Grenada had a hurricane in 1955, and that for 50 years thereafter there was no major hurricane to hit the island. And so the science and the facts then were that you were looking at probably 1 in every 50 years. And then we got hit in 2004, we got hit in 2005. We've now been hit in 2024, and we've been hit in July. And as you said, the storm has broken all records. I don't think that there is any question that the warming of the ocean surface is contributing to this, and that the warming of the ocean surface is largely as a result of the burning of hydrocarbons, the wholesale use of hydrocarbons worldwide, and that to a large extent the Industrial Revolution and modern society has been built on a single source of energy, which is petroleum-related products. Therefore, you have a situation where it's not just the warming of the ocean and the fueling of storms, but the fact that in the Caribbean it is killing our coral reefs. It is making our fish stock be at risk, because the warmer the temperatures, the greater it is that you have the growth of algae. You have the massive sargassum problem that we are facing, again, because the ocean is warming and it's fueling the growth of these things. So all of the indicators point to the fact that we're in July. The seas at temperatures that you'd expect in September and in August. So it therefore means that there's more energy for these storms to form. And they are forming, in a sense, it's no longer they're forming and they're heading to the northern Leeward Islands or Jamaica or Cayman or Cuba. Trinidad was threatened.
It's more south.
Venezuela had significant damage from the hurricane as well. So it therefore means the entire belt from the northern coast of South America all the way up to the southern coast of North America is now a hurricane zone. There's no safe path anymore. So to me, the indications are absolutely clear that this is linked to the climatic changes and very dramatic and unpredictable climatic events as well. Now, Grenada actually was experiencing severe drought-like conditions almost 2 weeks before this hurricane. And we ended up in a situation where we, as soon as the rain started, you don't have a terrible hurricane to treat with. So I think the indicators are clear. In terms of the fact that we are on the front lines, there's no question about that. We are getting hit. If it's not Grenada, it's Dominica. If it's not Dominica, it's the Bahamas. We can go on and on. We're the ones having to deal with these catastrophic events. We're the ones having to find the resources to rebuild and to safeguard the lives of our citizens and their livelihoods. And we are not being offered grant funding to do so. We are not being offered concessional loans to do so. Dominica has become a heavily indebted country because it had to borrow to rebuild and to continue trying to build resilience in its people. Grenada is going to have to do so. Barbados is going to have to do so as a result of this situation. St. Vincent and the Grenadines are going to have to do so. So when you borrow and you become more heavily indebted, it means the revenue you have from your tax base or from any other sources essentially has to go back now to pay back loans,
repayments,
rebuild infrastructure, schools, agriculture, etc. And you have to pay it back to people who probably are themselves the contributors to this global climatic challenge that we have. That's the vicious cycle that we're in.
And you said that there's no grant funding, there's no concessional loans. What has been the international response though to Grenada in terms of gifts, donations, and anything like that coming from the international partners?
Well, there has been, I mean, in terms of immediate relief efforts, the international community has and the regional community has responded. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, yes. So the regional community has certainly responded. CARICOM has been phenomenal, both in terms of immediate hands-on assistance, in terms of relief supplies, in terms of RSS soldiers via Antigua, Barbados, the Guyana Defense Force. The Trinidad and Tobago government has sent in supplies, gasoline to assist us. They're sending in linesmen to help us with the restoration of electricity. So to Dominica, St. Lucia. Thankfully, the Prime Ministers of Dominica, St. Lucia, St. Kitts, they visited Carriacou yesterday with me. They've offered, recognizing the level of destruction, to send in tradesmen and artisans to help us with the restoration effort. As challenging as many of our brothers and sisters find themselves in, they have offered some financial assistance, direct financial assistance. There are one or two regional organizations as well, starting from our central bank, that have pledged some financial assistance. And we are eternally grateful for that. The Chinese government, through the Chinese Red Cross, has pledged 100,000 US. The United States government initially pledged 100,000 US through their Red Cross regional bodies as well. I've just received word from the US ambassador that an additional $1 million will be pledged. The Canadian government, through the Minister for International Development and Cooperation, has also pledged $1 million. The Caribbean Development Bank has pledged, I think, around $500,000. Now, we are absolutely thankful for all of these contributions. The Angola government has pledged $250,000. So in that sense, there has been some offers of assistance and financial pledges. And we have also put out our own financial pledge where private citizens, sympathizers, supporters can make financial contributions. But I want to say this. These sums, when added up, will be a drop in the ocean, and to a large extent will simply go towards the immediate provision of relief supplies. And I'll just give you an example of what I'm meaning. Just to address the relief and the ability to distribute aid within Carriacou, the government had to purchase 11 vehicles, which easily will run us into $1 million+. We're talking pickups and trucks just to be able to distribute food. We have had to obviously retain barges and other ships to take all the relief supplies up to Carriacou. We've had to charter planes to be able to take people to and from Carriacou. So just the transportation costs, just the logistics involved in actually bringing the relief supplies is going to run us into the millions of dollars. So the truth is, there is no significant grant funding when we add all of this up to address that. So the cleanup alone, I mean, there's an enormous amount of debris, enormous, that has been created in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. This will run us into millions of dollars. It will probably take us 90 to 120 days just to clean up the galvanized, the zinc, the lumber, the glass, and all of the things that the furniture, the bits and pieces of wood that is strewn all over the place. It is going to take a lot of manual labor to do so because it's in the mangrove, it's on the beaches, it's everywhere. So yes, there is really no grant funding in any significant capacity outside of the pledges that our partners and so on made. There is no readily available international grant relief. I want to thank the government and the people of Trinidad and Tobago for their tremendous outpourings of support, encouragement, solidarity, material assistance, in this time, and their continued support. We really do appreciate it. It reminds us of Black Stalin, the Caribbean man, and that we all, one people. And so, again, thank you to the people of Trinidad and Tobago for the continued support in our relief and restoration efforts.
Prime Minister, we want to thank you as well. We know you probably have a very busy day, not probably. I'm sure you have a very busy day ahead of you. But we want, on behalf of all of us at Altos, we'd really like to thank you for taking this time to be with us and to congratulate you. You're the youngest kid on the block, so to speak, in terms of prime ministers in the region. And all the best to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
God bless. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks.
And here's a look at some events upcoming in the Archdiocese. Catholic News editor Raymond Sims gives us a preview of what's in this week's edition of the Catholic News.
In this Sunday's issue, Presentation College Chaguanas celebrates 65 years of excellence. Participant Ryan Bechu shares on his weekend experience of monastic life at Mount St. Benedict. And following the passage of Hurricane Beryl, Father Stefan Alexander asserts in the Catholic Commission for Social Justice column that God isn't a Trini, he's all a we. I am Raymond Sims, editor of the Catholic News.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of Altos. Remember, you can send your correspondence to us at altos@catholictt.org. Following Holy Mass at St. Dominic's Penal, the congregation made their way into the churchyard for the annual harvest. There were a variety of stalls, but the main attraction was Father Robert Christo, who mingled with parishioners young and old and participated in a late evening dance with the young people of the community. It was the last function for Father Christo as he's now been reassigned to Santa Rosa Parish, Arima. We leave you with these sight and sounds. Have a good week.